I always loved the game. I was always passionate about the game. I loved winning. I loved watching Graham Gooch back, David Gower. I loved those guys, Alan Lamb. Watching those guys play as a youngster, you just wanted to emulate them. Took a nice catch in front of David Gower at slip. He was really excited, and I was more happy that I'd made David Gower excited, catching a lower one-hander. When I first went in, I wasn't ready, but that made me go away and go, wow, that's how hard I've got to work. That's how consistent I've got to be. But hard work and dedication over talent for me any day. Very special times, a bond that you have forever with the lads. Winning the county championship, I still think is the greatest achievement. I felt we'd peaked. I wanted to keep riding the wave. We want to help you play for England. And for me, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Do you think that your chance had gone by that point then?
I was starting to believe that. I really was, even though inside you're always going to play for England because that's your dream. I've nothing to lose. Yeah, as an older guy at the end of my career, and you know what, let's go and have fun and let's embrace it and let's just be me as much as I can, be my authentic self. And to do that at home, in front of a full house, to go through the finals day, was a magical time.
Welcome to episode 1 of Caught in Conversation, the brand new Leicestershire podcast, where each week we'll be looking on to get the top guests from cricket and the wider world of sports to get both into their minds and their cricketing or sporting journey as well. You can get this podcast from YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast from usually, and on the official LCC app as well.
That's me. I didn't know it was going out on all them.
It's a big podcast, Roman. It's big.
Wow. Okay. Pressure's on. For those who don't know, my name's Roman Walker. I'm an all-rounder at Leicestershire County Cricket Club. This is Jack Gabriel, and he's on our media team. How much stuff do you put out a week, do you reckon? How many posts?
I have no idea. I've lost track. In this season, it's too much.
Yeah, you do a lot in the season.
More than meets the eye.
Yeah. Anyway, on to our guest for today. Our first episode, we couldn't start with anybody else. An absolute Leicestershire legend, the face of Leicestershire County Cricket Club over the past maybe 30 years. Over 30 years.
The legend's been in, 4 decades of sport for Leicestershire?
Unbelievable. A role model for many, playing with him and against him. Took so many catches, so disciplined with bat and keeping gloves. And with the ball for a little spell, wasn't it?
Only for a little spell, yeah.
Our first guest is my head coach, none other than Paul Nixon.
Thank you, gentlemen. Nice to see you.
Good to have you on. I'm glad to be doing this. I think it's a good idea for the club, and it's nice to get some more insight in your life, Nico. And I mean, you're a club legend. Everybody knows you. Everyone around the country in cricket knows you. But what I want to start with is how it became that and your early life. So we know you're from Cumbria. So basically my first question is, what was your upbringing like, your parents and getting you into sport? What were you doing when you were younger?
Yeah, parents, Brian and Sylvia Nixon. Father, sports mad, passionate about Carr United, local cricketer. Of earliest memories, he captained Penrith Cricket Club. He was very much the Jeff Boycott mould of opening batsman. Flicked it through mid-wicket, limited outside off stump, bowled a few left-arm tweakers. Mum helped made the tees. Eden Hall Cricket Club from Penrith, local little village just across literally the village I was from, Langwathby, a little farming community that had a village green in the middle of it, a little playground green there, farms around it, and the cricket pitch and the football pitch were down the other side of the River Eden. And the cricket pitch and the football pitch were right next to each other. So we just spent hours and hours and hours and weeks in our lives, early doors.
Amazing.
Just loving it. Yeah.
So did you grow up on the farm?
Yeah, basically, Dad. My grandfather was a farmer and passed it to my dad. So every day was farming. My grandfather was getting quite old when I was younger. He's passed away in his 80s. Great man, really well respected. He loved the cattle side of the business and the sheep side of the business. He loved animals and livestock. My father wasn't that bothered about that. He liked the tractors and the trucks and the forklift trucks, and he liked potatoes, crops, etc., and machinery. So it was a nice balance they had. But a great community, a wonderful community, a very close community. Everybody's house was open to somebody else to go into. Everybody knew everybody. Every night there was somebody in the village green playing something, whether it's rounders, football, cricket.
It's always nice reminiscing about them days when you're younger. And I remember going out myself and playing with my mates who lived across the road, and we'd be out till gone 9 o'clock. And as a young lad, it's pretty late, to be fair. But you'd be playing Kirby or football or throwing a ball around. You'd be doing anything. It's always nice to think back to them days.
It is. And I grew up with four. Basically, I called them my brothers. There was John Holiday, Mark, Tim, and Philip. Mark was my age. John was a year above, and Tim and Phil were a bit younger. And I was in their back garden all the time. Sports mad again, lads. John played football for Carl United. And in fact, the little village that we were from and the little village next door, there were so many professional sportsmen came out of it. John played football for Carl United. Obviously, I played sport. I played cricket. Paul Bird was Monster Mob Ducati's Superbikes in the team. He's got his own team in the World Superbikes thing, or British Superbikes now.
Do you know?
Wow. Still now over many years. Stuart Lancaster, England rugby coach, was obviously next door village and played cricket in the yard with us many occasions and county schoolboy together. I call Oliver Turvey was a number 2 driver in Formula One. I think he's involved with the sort of mechanics of it all now.
Is it like a test driver?
Yeah, he was so a little village of all those guys. Graham Monkhouse played for Surrey in the late 80s.
Wow.
Amazing little sort of sporting.
A lot of talent in your neck of the woods from different sports then. But was it always cricket for you?
I love my football, cricket and rugby. I was this sort of size and build when I was about 12 or 13. I was the big lad that nobody could stop on the rugby field, but everybody soon caught me up and overtake me. So, I love my football. My dream was to play football for Carl United. I still support them now. I still try and watch them as much as I can. And, that was a dream. That was the big sport in Cumbria. And still is. It's followed passionately by so many people. Some can get there, some can't. But when Carl start winning, it's amazing how the crowds rise into 10,000 plus when it's going really well. So everybody in Cumbria, even though it's a big, it's tucked away and it's a minor county as far as sports concerned, everybody's still as passionate as anybody.
So what changed you from wanting to be a footballer into wanting to be a cricketer?
I think I went on an England football trial for like the last 20 down in, I think it was Nottingham somewhere. And everybody else was signed up to a club apart from me. And they asked what you wanted to do. And I wanted to play cricket. And cricket came easier for me. I was more natural at cricket. Football, I was playing for Penrith. We actually had Bob Stokoe for a manager for a little while. And then cricket I was always progressing quicker in cricket. And football, I was much...
As a wicket keeper as well? Or?
It was then. I wasn't a keeper to start with. I was an all-rounder. But my bowling didn't really kick on. And I was quite a good goalkeeper, even though I played in midfield, ideally in football. I had too much energy. I was a bit hyperactive as a kid. And I had too much energy to be a goalkeeper, even though I was a fearless goalkeeper and good hands. And that helped me with my cricket, I think, the goalkeeping as a young age.
You've obviously carried that on now with that energy we still see day in, day out here. But who inspired you as a kid to want to become a cricketer or a keeper in particular?
Well, I just loved cricket. I loved all sport. Ian Botham, Viv Richards were legends and top dogs. They were incredible, that you just wanted to watch them play. Graham Gooch, I love watching Graham Gooch bat. David Gower, I loved those guys. Alan Lamb, watching those guys play as a youngster, you just wanted to emulate them.
So that progression for you with cricket in terms of loving it and playing it and getting better, how did that progress into like regionals? Was it Cumbria regional sides?
Yeah, under 13s. I played under 13s when I was 10. Played 3 years of that. Then I went 15s. Then sort of, from Cumbria schools. Then you go north of England trials. Did well there. England schools, England cricket, ESCA, it was called them days. Yeah, England Schools Cricket Association. And in fact, Mr. Grayson, Paul Grayson, ex-Essex and Yorkshire, and Simon Grayson, who was down here at Leicester City Football. Their dad, Adrian, used to do a bit of coaching with us at Beedale many years ago as well, at North of England trials. So great sporting family again. Great. I spoke at dinner actually in Harrogate a couple of years ago, and he was there, which was great to see him. I haven't seen him for many years. So, and then England schools, and then from England schools to I played a year young, and then I played the next year just as a batsman. Wayne Noon, he was the match referee now, ex-Northampton, Notts wicketkeeper. He played in the right year for us when I was under 15s. I played as a batsman and a keeper in the year young, and he kept the year after. And then, from then on, I went to the MCC Young Pros. I trialled at Lancashire. They just signed Warren Hegg. I went down to Warwickshire, and they just signed Keith Piper. So I then got very lucky that I went on the MCC Young Professionals. Don Wilson, who sadly passed away a few years ago, saw me say, "Come on, Nico, lad, down you come, mate. Get yourself down into London."
Was that Lord's Groundstaff?
Lord's Groundstaff, yeah, MCC Young Professionals. Yeah. So it's a real rounded experience where you sell scorecards, you do the covers, you work in the scoreboard, and you help with the cover duties when need be. Because them days there was no hover cover. You literally covered half the ground because of the slope at Lords.
Well, so that's a massive difference now to nowadays. Because my journey was straight into the academy and then pretty much being looked after into second team and first team cricket. Whereas you were properly working hard for what you wanted to do.
Yeah, helping Middlesex second team, being with Middlesex second team. I was lucky that somebody got injured. No, I think it was Paul Downton went into the England team. The second team keeper, Martin Ollie, I think he was called at the time, went into the first team. So I had a gap in the second team, and I was lucky on the ground staff 11. They gave me that opportunity. So I was in Middlesex for 6 weeks, and in the end, they didn't want to offer me a contract. I came up for a trial game at Leicestershire at where were we at? We were at Market Harbour against Middlesex. Daffy Philip de Freitas was in the second team at the time. He was talking about leaving Leicestershire. He was in the second team, and did all right then, and then eventually got a contract, which was lovely.
You know, it came after a few trial games, you said, and you played a lot of second team cricket. I think that was 11. How did you find that transition going into the second team at Leicestershire?
Yeah, huge difference. Huge difference. A great vibe. I thought the lads were fantastic. The likes of Lloyd Tennant around those days. Justin Benson, who coached, is in the independent schools now. He's doing a great job in independent schools. There's some, Andrew Rosebery, who I was around those days with. Michael Rosebery was his brother, played for Middlesex and Durham. Obviously, quite a few first team, second team guys mixing. A lot of the first teamers. It was quite a big squad in those days. It was probably near 30 in those days. So a lot of internationals. I mean, the Leicestershire team was an incredible side at that time. David Gower, Peter Willey, Les Taylor, John Agnew, Philip de Freitas, Chris Lewis, overseas pros, George Ferris. These guys were world class.
Serious cricket.
You were around those guys quite often.
Yeah, we were.
Did you feel overawed by that, or did they help you?
Never. I actually never felt overawed. Whether that was my upbringing and about you roll your sleeves up and you get stuck in.
That's a natural confidence you've got, though, I suppose.
Yeah, it was about. I think that was instilled as a work ethic. You've got to have a work ethic, and you've got to drive yourself forward. And that's from planting seeds, you've got to look after them in crops to make them develop. You've got to do the same in yourself. And I think that was really pushed hard for me as a young age with my parents. And I got great support from my mum, who was always there for me. I was an only child, but I didn't feel like that because I was so busy in a village with, it was like a Red Hand gang all the time in the village. There's always somebody there to play with, and always somebody there I wanted to have a laugh with. And whether it was being on a dinghy or a blown up tyre in a tube down the river for a day, and we used to have a 10p in your pocket to put in the phone box to come home, and your parents would come pick you up, or it was somebody playing sport. There's always somebody there, and I took that ethic and that mindset into sport.
Moved into professional cricket. So I suppose as the conversation works towards professional cricket, I mean, I've got some stats down of what you've done. And what was it? Was it a 22-year career?
Yeah, 23 if you call probably the Lord's Groundstaff, the MCC. And we just got paid in those days. Just
so there's not many people who can say they've had that longer career. And it spanned across 4 decades. You played in 4 decades, which is an outstanding stat. That's unbelievable. You ended up playing 355 first-class games. How do you do that? Like, at what point do you think you need to ramp up your fitness and your mental capabilities to be able to deal with that? Was it 100 games in? Was it 200 games in? Or was it at the start?
No, it was pretty early. I loved the game. I loved sport. My dad did well. He gave me all the rubbish jobs on the farm that were tough jobs that tested me out to make sure I loved my sport. He gave a lot of sacrifices for me to play a sport. He bought me a gym when I was younger to train and get fitter than the average player. He was quite a fit guy and took his fitness pretty seriously. And
you have to be a farmer.
Yeah, exactly. They're long days. It's a lifestyle. It's not. It's not a job. It's a massive lifestyle. So, working at 11 o'clock at night quite often through the summer.
Early mornings.
Mornings, getting up. Yeah, I used to have to get up and put my granddad's socks on because he couldn't. His knees were gone and shot to pieces. Bless him. So at 5 o'clock, 5:30. So Yeah, I always loved the game. I was always passionate about the game. I loved winning. I loved, yes, my great days, but I loved other people's great days. And yeah, having that
culture,
having that environment, being in that environment, I loved it. And I couldn't get enough of it. I knew that it was only going to happen for so long, and embrace it and love every day, because you never know when it's going to get taken away. You know, we've all lost people at school. We lost a few good mates who were good sportsmen at school, with various accidents, and one or two taking their own lives. And you look back and who were equally as good as talented as I was. But I think from a minor county, as far as Cumbrian sport, I wanted to put Cumbria on the map as well.
Represent.
Yeah, and I had so much great support from everybody, from the press, from teachers, from my dad's friends, from local. They inspired me a lot from the message of support I always got consistently from everybody, which was really nice, actually.
Yeah. So go on, mate.
But being away from home and moving away at an early age, obviously move away from having that support given to you directly. Obviously, you said you received it, but is that hard for you to move away from home? It's something you did as well, Roman, with moving away from Glamorgan. Is that a hard thing to do at that age?
Yeah, it certainly was. When I was I went on the Lord's grounds. I went to Australia when I was 18 for a winter, and then came down here. It's funny, my grandma used to cook us some amazing sort of biscuit cakes that she used to come down. And the lads used to love them. They were like a flapjack with peppermint on it, like a Mars bar cake with peppermint on it as well, which was amazing. And the lads used to know at the end, the tin that it was sent down in. You could tell, so they used to dive in my mail and get them out. Yeah, it was tough at the start, but I used to drive back home a little bit. And actually quite early on, my mum and dad got divorced. And being an only child, I had to go back and support my mum. She was in a bad way, bless her, which was tough after 20 years of marriage. So, I had to go and support my mum at weekends. So wherever I was of the weekend of a Friday afternoon cricket match, wherever I was, whether we were playing Southampton or whether it was in London or wherever we were, I always drove back and at the weekend at home and saw my mates and supported mum, who was obviously by herself. So, I always went back. I love driving. I've been driving in the fields as a youngster all the time. So I love driving, didn't mind that. So I was away.
What was the structure like in terms of moving away? Because I know for me, I was really looked after by Glamorgan, and when I came to Leicester, I was really looked after in terms of them finding me places to live. And yes, I'd pay me bills, but I wouldn't have to, drag myself across estate agents or anything like that at 16 or 17, which would have been really difficult. So for you at that point, were they helping you out? Was it communal sort of living when you went to the ground staff, and then when you come up to Leicester, did they help you out with the clubhouse, or did you have to look elsewhere for yourself?
Yeah, I was really lucky. Both ways, really. MCC at Lords, they had 79 Fitzjohns Avenue, High Helmet was called. It was a sort of hostel.
You remember that?
I still remember it, yeah. 79 Fitzjohns Avenue, yeah, High Helmet, Hampstead. So brilliant area. Not far from Lords, 1.5 miles, 2 miles from Lords. It was a huge hostel full of everybody. That's where they put us. And we were lucky, actually. It was about, I don't think what we got paid now. It was like something crazy, like, it was something like £80 a week or £90 a week. And you had to give your digs out of that as well. Most guys, it was like £35, £40 for their digs a week. Where there was three of us. I'd called Tim Chadwick, Robert Gofton, who played here at Leicestershire for a while, and myself were in an old TV room, which there was three of us. They decided to use this old TV room, and three of us. So we got a bit of discount. We all paid about £28 a week. So we had a bit more cash. So then whenever we went on trial to somebody else, you got more money for being on trial, for petrol and for accommodation. For your meal money. So, you could come out with your meal money. You could earn as much in your meal money for a week as you would for your wages at that stage. But then Leicestershire was the same. I came here, Mike Turner looked after me like royalty. He literally gave me accommodation. I lived with Winston Benjamin for a while, which was an interesting eye opener because Benji didn't hold any punches, and he was a belter, Benji, a real character. But it makes you grow up quickly, and it gives you responsibility, and you have to have a bit of ownership and self leadership. So you make lessons when you miss times and you get fined, or you've got to do different different challenges, and the club set you. But I loved it. I loved that. I loved being with the team, we were the second team were a good team, and we were together, young lads going together with the odd senior guy coming in. The first team was a bit more settled, and and some high-class players. So we knew really we were going to be in the second team for a while until you force your way in, or there's an injury.
There's a gap.
And luckily for me, Phil Whittaker got injured and had a gap.
And then obviously you got your first team debut, I think, away at Warwickshire in July '89. I don't think you got a bat that day, but what were your experiences and how did you find it?
Well, it was away from Grace Road. We were at Hinckley, and one of our outgrounds at the time, and we played Warwickshire. I remember Alan Donald bowling the speed of light. It was phenomenal. Down the hill at Hinckley, quite a green pitch, bouncy pitch. We did well and got a decent score. It was a draw in the end, and I got a few victims, which was nice on my debut as a keeper. Took a nice catch in front of David Gower at slip. He was really excited, and I was more happy that I'd made David Gower excited, catching a lower one-hander. And I remember missing a stumping from Peter Woolley, who gave me a lot of grief about missing the stumping. I think Dermot Reeve went to sweep one, and he dragged out and he bounced a bit, and I missed it. Which I was disappointed about, but I remember it just being it was a real, the intensity. I love the intensity of it. It was a very intense game because Leicester Warwickshire had a bit of banter against each other at that time. Warwickshire were a good side, and Leicester had a lot of international players, and they were up for it. So I enjoyed the intensity of it.
Were there many nerves around before that debut, and if so, like who settled them for you?
Obviously nerves, yeah. Excited to do well, excited to go and express myself and get stuck in. Wasn't needed with the bat. But I think Nigel Brives was pretty good for me. Nigel spoke well to me and just kept making sure you're all right, lad. You're all right. Breathe, slow things down, do the right things, you'll be all right. You're in a good place. So Nigel was good. But in those days, it was a very different environment. People looked after their own games. They didn't give an awful lot. They liked to hang on to their position. They didn't want anybody else coming into their place. So it was a little bit more of a, dog-eat-dog world than it is nowadays. Now it's about team, about giving, about the group. Then it wasn't. It was about you doing well.
How do you contrast that with your debut, Roman, at Glamorgan? Same sort of vibe, or?
I mean, like I said, support has been my main word, really, for the start of my career. I remember my professional debut was away at Sussex in a list A game. I think we were out of the competition, but it was the first time I'd been in a first team squad. We were at Lords a couple of days before, and I didn't get picked for that one, but it was my first trip to Lords as well. So
nice trip there.
It would have been
sport with lunches.
Not a bad one,
honestly. But yeah, we made our way down to Sussex, and I didn't have a bad game. I think I bowled 4 or 5 overs, went at 4 or 5 and over. Didn't get a wicket, but I hit 6 to win the game. At the end of it, we needed something like 6 off 9. And I don't know what came into me. It wasn't even one of my shots off the hip over cow. Just pulled it and it went for 6, luckily. It's one of them, you look back and you sort of, if I didn't get all of that and David Wiesert had caught it on the boundary, I'd look like I'm right. So-and-so, I suppose. But
that's the game, isn't it?
That's it. No, that's it. And I think you learn from stuff like that, and people supported me through that. I remember Matt Maynard helped me a lot, and it was on the just as we turned up. I was walking up the steps of the changing rooms, and he said, "You're playing," and that's all he said. He just went, "You're playing. Good luck. Go well." And even though short word, short sentence, he knows how to fill people with confidence. Matt Maynard,
and the look he'd give you as well.
Yeah. And he's very good, and just his musky voice, it sort of settles you, and you just sort of, right, I'm in for this. I'm ready. Although I don't think I was fully ready. I'd had a good season, but bowling wise, I think I'd just sort of tailed off form wise. But yeah, it's a good memory. It was a long drive back. I remember that, Sussex to Cardiff, long drive back, especially for a night game. I remember it was under lights as well. We started at 2:00. But no, it was an enjoyable debut, and then luckily went on to make T20 debuts after that. But yeah, no, it's nice hearing your point of view on early life and early career, because there's a lot of similarities, and there's also a lot of difference in how I was probably a bit more nervous, even though I'm confident and I'm outgoing. I was a bit more nervous coming up to my debuts or getting selected in a squad. And it's quite interesting to hear that you, coming into a first team environment or a second team professional environment, that you were quite confident and believed in yourself, and you weren't really fazed too much by what was going on around you. So I suppose my question is, do you reckon that is bred and taught, or do you reckon that's a bit natural?
Great question. I think a bit of both. I think the Cumbrian upbringing of playing men's cricket at a young age and a super competitive men's cricket at a young age really puts a bit more steel into you. It makes you a bit more, thick-skinned.
Yeah.
Because
what age did you start playing?
About sort of, I would say about 11, 10 or 11, 12,
same,
just in there. Second team cricket first. When the second team is short, you get a game, don't you?
The old guys with all the experience.
Yeah, and then you work your way to the first team, and I wanted to play. My dad was in the first team. I wanted to play with my dad as well. Eden Hall had a good team at the time, and I loved it. And it was so, even though you were a kid, they wanted to get you out.
Yeah,
it wasn't give him a warn or look after him. No, they wanted to win a game of cricket.
So that's where I feel like club cricket. As soon as I became maybe 13, 14, I was playing first team cricket, and people could see that I was a half decent cricketer. That sort of softness goes away, and they see you as a normal player, and they're probably more excited to get you out as this sort of little kid swaggering around thinking he's amazing, which is inevitably what it would have looked like from the outside. I remember people like overseas. I remember playing a midweek T20 game, and I was bowling at him, and I bowled a bouncer to him, and he was a South African, and he goes, "I bowl quick too, I bowl seam too, remember that?" And I thought, oh Christ, he's going at me. It was the first time someone had properly confronted me, and then he hit me for 6, and I returned the favour when he bowled at me, and I was sort of happy days. He got me out eventually, but that's them confrontation, I think, do build you, and I think my upbringing at Mark Wheel, I was off the rails sometimes. I'd get out and I'd throw my stuff about even before getting off the pitch. And I'm glad I did that when I was 13 or 14, because you learn so much coming off. I mean, you do that here, you get roasted, aren't you? I get roasted by you, I get roasted by guys higher up and the fans. So even something as small as that, as holding yourself in a certain way. Adult cricket when you're younger is, I think, gold dust. The sooner you can get people in, young lads in. I think going on from that, what is your view now on young kids coming through? Because I know in certain leagues there's age restrictions on lads coming through into a first team division or a team in general, like a 14 or 15 year old restriction, even into second team cricket. So what's your view on that? Do you think if they're good enough, play them or not?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think it's crucial that you give people as earlier access to what the game's about, the better. I think we'll look at Rahan. What we've seen from Rahan, he's played so much cricket.
Perfect example.
As a youngster in men's cricket, wow, he's got his hours in. They talk about 10,000 hours. He's got his 10,000 hours in. He's understood his game. He's understood him as a person. And I think you need that, and we need challenging.
Yeah.
We talk about this sort of snowflake sort of generation in a way. It doesn't have much challenge compared to the challenges. Yes, there's challenges around social media and what's happening with social media, which is positives and negatives. But I think we all need challenging.
Yeah.
And I think it's really healthy for us. And we can reflect on it and move forward and learn from it and not dwell on it.
Yeah, I think it builds a maturity in your game.
Yeah, definitely. An understanding and maturity. And actually, we know that 3/4 of the time in professional sport or in sport, you're going to lose.
Oh, yeah.
And actually you build that, that inner strength and desire to win.
Yeah.
Obviously threw Rahan into the team quite a young lad, was he? 16 on debut?
Yeah.
What made you think that he was ready at that stage?
More his character, purely because he always had a smile on his face. He was always up for the challenge. In nets, he would try things. He had no fear about anything. He was always the same. Every day, day in, day out, smile on his face, want to give energy to the team, want to do well himself, want to put a show on. And he's a sportsman. He always wanted to be him bowling the last ball. Always wanted to be him hitting a 6 to win the game. Always wanted to be him. Competitive. Everything he did. Every throw that he throws it in for his life. From 15 yards, from 35 yards, or from 45 yards, 70 yards. Every throw, he means it. And that tells you a lot. That tells you a lot as a coach. Watching the body language, just watching the ways around other people. He was ready. And even if he wasn't quite ready, but I think he was ready. Even if he wasn't quite ready, it's nice to see how he is as a coach. You put him in, you give him the opportunity, have a look. He knows what he's got to be. When I first went in, I wasn't ready. I missed chances. I wasn't ready, but that made me go away and go, wow, that's how hard I've got to work. That's how consistent I've got to be. This is what type of bloke I've got to be. My discipline of my uniform, my timings, how I'm respectful around the group, from not sitting in David Gower's seat or somebody else's seat, or just the respect you give other people. It's crucial. And the learnings you get from that as a youngster, fantastic.
It's interesting you mentioned that, obviously learning as a young guy, so you made your debut in 89, was it? Had a few steady seasons then while you were learning, I think until 94, and you passed 1,000 runs at an average close to 40, I think it was. So how much did you learn in that time, and what clicked for you, from the course of your debut until that season when you were so prolific?
Yeah, it's a long time ago now. I think I'd had a good winter. I'd prepared well, and I started to know myself. I'd sort of slowed down a little bit. I always thought, work harder than everybody else, do more than everybody else, and you'll be successful. And actually, it wasn't. It wasn't, because it was about being smarter and being a bit more honest with yourself at times. And I think that's really important. I started to ask why and ask coaches a lot more things. And, we had some good people around. And then I think I just took a bit more responsibility. And I think I just grew up a bit more as a human being, and just slowed down a little bit. And that seemed to work. And obviously good pitches, good players around you. Hansi Cronje was down around that time as well, and Hansi was a great man, had a great work ethic, and he loved running. I loved running. We both do a load of running together. We'd come in the indoor school in the morning at 8 o'clock before anybody else even got here. Bowling machine was on to each other, and just worked hard and watched how an international star went about his game. I got a lot from that, and we helped each other a lot, And he just arriving over here needed that support of a local mate. Yes, he knew Gordon Parsons, obviously, because Gordon ended up marrying Hansi's sister, so Hester. So it was great to have that sort of close contact with an international star at a young age that helped me move forward in my batting. Yeah.
So I think with everybody's preparation, I suppose, is quite different. What works for one person may not work for another. And I know that even in my short career that I've seen so many people work in different ways. But there's always certain things that keep cropping up. And I think one of them is hard work, and it's dedication. And I think, in my opinion, and we had a short conversation about this the other day, and it's some people, and it's 1 in a million, are talented enough to do nothing and become a world-class cricketer. But the majority of us have to work so hard just to be better than the next person. What would you say to any young person coming in? So let's say you're taking a coaching session for 10 young kids. Are they bullet points? Are they hard work and dedication? Are they things you're telling them if they want to become a professional cricketer?
Yeah, you've got to love it. You've got to love it because you're doing it for your job. You've got to love it, because if you're a wicketkeeper, you're doing close to 1,000 squats a day. You're running 4 miles of sprints. You're doing warm-ups. When I started, it was 110 overs a day, 660 squats, plus a warm-up, bit of a warm down, few laps, whatever, in those days. When you're doing it so consistently and it's hard work, you've got to be right. And professional sport, you have to fundamentally love it and be passionate about it. And if you're just doing it for a job, you're not going to go the extra yard. You've got to be passionate about it. So, what's your end goal? You've got to know what people's end goal is as a youngster. What does he want to achieve? Does he want to play in Market Harbour third team, or does he want to play for England? Then there's but hard work and dedication over talent for me any day. It has to be that, because you have to immerse yourself in it.
It's like the fullback role, I think, in football now, wicket keeping and batting. It's like, in the past, a fullback would defend purely. Now they've got to attack as well. Wicket keeping was the same, wasn't it? I don't know when what the changeover was, but it was a specialist role, and then you had to add the batting into it. Was that something you found during your career? Did you work hard on both equally, or was there one that you sort of thought, I need to give more time and attention to this?
No, it was equal both. I didn't want to let anybody down. I didn't want to let my bowlers down. I had to catch the ball. And it used to break my heart when I dropped anything, or even byes used to break your heart as a keeper. And first-class keepers now, they'll all have the same feelings, no question, because you've got a lot of self-pride and you want to do well for your side. So, yeah, I think Alan Nutt was the legend many years ago, who was the English legend that I used to love watching, and Jack Russell and even Stewie was high class as well. Jack with his keeping, Bob Taylor's keeping. England always had great wicket keepers, and I loved watching those great keepers. And being a bit hyperactive as a kid, being a keeper was a great opportunity for me to be involved every ball. I had the energy for that. So, for coaches out there who are listening, who've got a young hyperactive kid, get him behind the stumps, get him catching, because he's going to be involved every single ball. And that was massive for me, to be involved every ball, to make a difference if I could every ball. So yeah, it's people have got to love it. You've got to have hard work. Until you're in a first class environment, you see this professional sport. It's like any sport. You watch it on TV, you can't see how fast it is. You can't see the power of a golf swing or a tennis serve or a fast bowler delivering the ball at 90 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour plus. But to do it day in, day out and be consistent, you've got to be in good shape nowadays. Yeah. You've got to to do it consistently, because I think the intensity's gone up. Yeah, definitely. It's quite funny. One of our cleaners was cleaning up the other day, and he was right behind the net, and he was like, wow, I normally clean from 70 yards away, but when you're there, geez, that ball thuds into that back of net. Wow, he said, wow. Made me laugh. Like, actually, yeah, you forget about it when you're involved in the game.
It's a lot quicker in person. That hyperactivity that you had on the field, did you always relay that to us? Were you quite chirpy as a wicketkeeper to the guys, especially against you? Any sledges that you can remember? And where do you stand on sledges? It's been obviously a debate recently, hasn't it?
Yeah, listen, sport's competitive. It's got to be competitive. For me, I'm not a huge fan of just taking part. It's about trying to win, because, and there's a lot of schools out there that just getting kids taking part. Yeah, it's important taking part, but if you want to take part, play in the third team, play in whatever. If there's some good young maths student, is an outstanding student, do they not support him as well? Just to say, oh, well, we're not going to push you. You're just down there as well. We're just going to get somebody else in there next to you who's not very good, just to go in the A team. I don't agree with that. I think it should be there to win, your best team to win. Yeah. And you support the coaches support whoever's in first team, second team, fifth team, 10th team. So it's about winning. And I think being brought up in Cumbria, there was a lot of sledging going on. There was a lot of banter going on, and you were in the game. It was real. It was alive, and I enjoyed that. And it brought the best out of me. I could quite often be a bit bored in a 4-day game, standing back 30 yards to Winston Benjamin roaring in. I wanted to be in the banter, in the mixer. I felt miles away. I enjoyed that sort of challenging other people. And I'd be the first one to buy him a drink and say, well played, I tried. What were you thinking about this? Or were you? And that can get you a lot of enemies as a player. If you're strong to people, it can get you a lot of enemies. I just want to win. I love the rugby mentality. I was lucky enough to go to the Tigers when I was younger. They helped get me fit. Chris Toombs, one of their coaches, who loved his cricket. He got me down there, and I went down there with Martin Johnson and Austin Healy and Martin Corrie and Pat Howard and all those guys. And I used to train with those guys in the winter, and they showed me how fit you can get. But their banter, I love the rugby banter of, they gave each other loads of stick, but the respect they had. And look at rugby now. The belt living brains out of each other. I mean, it's crazy what they go through, what their bodies go through is amazing. But they're first to give each other a high five and talk about the game afterwards. And a minute ago they were like that with each other, and all over each other. And I love that about sport, that there is on the field and there's off it.
There's always a line, isn't there?
Always a line.
Respect that when you leave.
Absolutely.
Are you similar, Rowan, in being up for the battle, or with the cricket phrase, you someone that wants to bat it away?
Yeah, I think I'm very much wearing my heart on my sleeve when I'm on the pitch. I think if I'm annoyed at myself, you'll see that I'm annoyed at myself. And that's something I'm learning to deal with now. I mean, we've had countless conversations about how it may look to other people or how it may affect my own team if I'm down on myself. And I think I'm improving on that, to be fair. But in terms of directing that towards an opposition, I don't think I'm clever enough to give any chat out. You know, there may be a few things where I may pick apart a piece of their technique or something like that, or they may be batting really slowly and I'll just mention it. But above all, I think I'm just loud and saying something so it's not dead on the field. And sometimes people follow, sometimes people don't, you know, and that's the game. But I'm not clever enough to give out these chirpy comments and make people think like, no, I think there's a lot of YouTube videos about people talking about bowlers, especially like coming down, Alan Donald, Curtly Ambrose, coming down, people who are properly fired up and bowling rapid, and saying clever things. I think when I'm in the heat of the battle, I'll end up saying something stupid, and they'll just end up laughing. You know, I think that's a part of knowing my game as well. But I think it's a beneficial side of the game. If you've got someone who's very, very good at talking to a batsman or talking to a bowler and knowing a personality that they can go at, I think that the mental side of the game is massively underrated.
Yeah, people, you know, when people aren't right, they're in the past or they're in the future, and if you can take them there as an opposition player, get them worried about getting out, get them worried about or talk about how they did get out the last few games, and just sowing those mental seeds of doubt, because good players on flat wickets score runs, and you want your lads to do well. And if you can try and get into their heads so that they just grip the bat a bit tighter, they go after something they shouldn't go after, then that's what it was about, really. And having a bit of fun as well, of course it is. But you know, there's a lot of very good players out there, and it's challenging times. So we want to win. Let's challenge the opposition to win, but don't go over the line. There is a line, and I've been warned about that before. Of course I have. But that's, you know, look at Man City. They're getting warned left, right, and centre about things, but they want to win. You know, sports, and let's keep pushing boundaries to where we are. But you know, there's a line, obviously, and you've got to respect that.
Obviously, you did taste success, and you won the county championship in '96 and '98. Two great sides. You had two phenomenal seasons individually there as well. How much did you thrive in those sides, and what are your memories of those successes?
Very special times, you know, a bond that you have forever with the lads. Winning the county championship, I still think is the greatest achievement as a county player, obviously apart from, you know, domestically. So the togetherness we had, we were very lucky that we only, I think it was '96, I think we only used 12 players through the year, which is unheard of. 12 players. We had no injuries. It was a phenomenal. I'm sure it was '96, yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah,
unheard of.
Yeah.
Unheard of. We backed the quality of cricket we played. I remember James Whitaker, our captain then, who was then later coach and CEO, and now match referee. James was ultra positive about everything. You couldn't have a negative word. You know, you couldn't say, "How you doing, morning, James?" And you'd say, you'd say, "I'm not too bad, thanks." He would hammer you for saying not too bad. So you're not too bad. So that means you're a bit bad, but not too bad. So how bad are you then? You know, he was like, "I'm really positive. I'm on fire today. I'm on." You know, Darren Maddy, his nickname was Roaster in the end, because he was like, "Yeah, I'm roasting. I'm on fire. I'm going to be there, Jim. I'm going to win the game for you, son." Ultra positive. And it was everybody stood up and played their part. And, you know, I think the top 7 averaged 40 or close to 40. We got, you know, Milnes and Mullally were magnificent as an opening pair. Adrian Pearson, Phil Simmons was outstanding. Still got something to prove. Everybody had something to prove at that time, whether it was playing for England or Phil Simmons playing for West Indies, guys playing for a new contract. There was always somebody had something to prove. And we gelled, and I think we batted once on 10 occasions in 16 games. Wow. Which is incredible. And we had so many days off. It was lovely. I remember us having loads of days off. There's a few hangovers, you know, making sure that we enjoyed our success. We worked hard, played hard and worked hard, and enjoyed ourselves away from it. And good people. We had a great bunch of girls as well at that time. All the girls were really positive and backed the guys 100%. They came together. They came to the games a lot, which was great. We had a real family vibe. And it was, you know, James started the huddle where we're all in it together. There was no seniority and youngsters and older guys. It was, we're all in it. And the huddle was made. Leicestershire had that first huddle. You see every team now have a huddle. Well, we created that. We had a couple of psychologists come over. We had a pre-season tour to the West Indies, and we had a couple of guys come over from American Airlines that they'd used them. And I think David Colley, who'd worked in the airline industry as a CEO, brought those guys. We had some great fun on the beach at 6 o'clock in the morning in dark glasses that we couldn't see out of, that we had to do various challenges. But we we got on well with each other. I think Jack Birkinshaw picked a lot of good people as well around that time. There's some really good people, and we just got on well. And we had a good work ethic, knew our roles, and went for it. We were brave.
Obviously, on the back of that, you taste that success. A few sportsmen maybe say after they've won something like that, they feel a bit lost. Like, how can they achieve that feeling again, that euphoric high? Is that somewhere you felt, or did you felt, I've won now, I want that feeling again and again and again? Yeah,
definitely. We wanted it again. We wanted to, and I think, in 97 we didn't win it. And I think Glammy won it in 97. Yeah. And we had 20 days washed out. We were absolutely gutted because we'd lost over 2,000 overs.
Do you think you'd have won?
I genuinely do.
Well?
I genuinely do think we would have won it.
Do you think that's down to culture? Because you won in 98.
Yeah.
And if you were playing well in 97, then there's that pattern of that positive culture, a family environment, just an easygoing, comfortable place to be.
Yeah, I think that most guys were getting to, probably the average age was probably, I want to say 26, 27, 28 of the group. So we were in a good age.
Yeah.
We knew our games. We knew each other's games. We were a consistent group of lads together. There wasn't guys in and out, loads of injuries, loads of different overseas pros coming back in because there's competitions around the world. It was much calmer, much more together, much more of a unit. We were in the Big Brother house together every day because there wasn't many of us, and we all were playing good cricket. So we're in the team. We knew we were going to be in the team for the next month or whatever, and that helped the calmness of everybody. So we got on really well as a group, and that was massive.
You can see that still in sport now. I think when Leicester won the league, they had the fewest changes. Arsenal in football are the one now. They don't often change that team. When you find that balance, it makes it much easier, doesn't it? As you say, you all know your own roles. You're very well gelled together, and it makes the team environment much better to come into, I guess, and not having new faces or doubting your place every couple of weeks.
Definitely, and that comes from the coaching as well, because you have to make subtle changes as a coach. Like, even now, we've just been tweaking our schedule for Chris Wright. We've had a few injuries. Wright is bowled a lot as a senior bowler. He's had a knee operation a couple of years ago. We've got to look after him. He's bowled probably enough overs now inside. So it's now we're going to just tweak his ball, his number of overs that he bowls, or the times he bowls in the indoor nets to be ready for outside. And I think that all those things help create an injury-free, slightly less injuries come the season. So yes, you can get freak injuries. Of course you can. That's sport. But you just do as much as you possibly can and be as flexible as you can for the unit, for the individuals, for the unit to be successful.
So I've got on my notes here. 2 years after you won in 98, you made a move to Kent, and you spent 2 years there. So what was the idea behind moving to Kent and reasoning? Was it a progression? Was there something that had changed at Leicester, or was it looking for England?
Absolutely, all of the above. I felt we'd peaked. We'd just peaked. Alan Mullally was doing really well. Hampshire came in with an amazing offer, a six-figure offer that he couldn't turn down in those days. He could not turn that down. Alan went down there. David Milnes was starting to get a few injuries and just peaking as well as a senior bowler. Chris Lewis was starting to get involved with things that he shouldn't be getting involved with, which he obviously later paid the price. And I wanted to keep riding the wave. Kent had spoken to me and said, listen, Nico, we've got, always had a great history of wicketkeepers down at Kent. We've been the bridesmaids in 3 competitions, just too often. Steve Marsh, our keeper's coming towards the end. We like what you're about. We see you and Marsh as similar characters. You're scrappers. You'll roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. You can both be match winners with the bat and gloves. And we want to help you play for England. And for me, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And Kent was a fantastic place to be a wicketkeeper batsman, belting pitches, good carry. They had a good side at the time. Overseas pros, Rahul Dravid, Andrew Simons, trying to think who else. Darryl Cullen was there for a while. Steve Waugh was there. I mean, they had a phenomenal budget to get these guys down, and they
good experience to play with them players as well. Isn't
it? Incredible. So for me, I felt we'd peaked. I wanted to play for England. They said, listen, we want you to play for England. We've got a great history and pedigree for English wicketkeepers. So yeah, it was. I went down there. They were amazing. Peter Moores and Chris Adams were very proactive for me to go to Sussex at the time. They were rebuilding. But at this time, and they actually offered me a better contract than Kent, but I'd said yes to Kent. I was a man of my word. And I went down to Sussex. I said, listen, I've already signed. Chris says, Nico, we want you. We've got to have you. We're desperate for you with us. But they were on the start of their journey.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be a consistently winning team on the start of your journey. I want you to keep winning. I've just been used to winning. I was a winner.
Did you feel like Sussex would have been an unjustified move coming away from Leicester, who are maybe just going into a start-up again?
Yeah.
Where they were on a downslope going up.
Yeah.
Whereas Sussex were just on the back end of that downslope.
Yeah.
It would have been a bit of an unjustified move.
A little bit, yeah. I think I'd enjoyed the journey, don't get me wrong, and they were amazingly successful afterwards in 5 or 6 years. But I was 30 at that stage. And I was, as a 30-year-old, you're sort of just getting towards that peak. So even though I was still fitting well and in a good place physically, people's perceptions of it as well, he's 30 now.
Yeah.
He's getting over the hill. But Kent were, had an outstanding side at the time. They had, a lot of, the Mark Elams, the Matthew Flemings, Dave Fultons, Rob Keys, Matt Walkers, a lot of high-class, Ed Smith, a lot of serious players. Martin McCaig, bowling, Dean Headley, a guy called Julian Thompson, who had an early retirement, who's a fine bowler. So we had, Min Patel, a high-class spinner, international spinner.
Proper name.
So it was a great, there was a great, serious squad. It was a big change from Cumbria to Kent. Mrs. didn't enjoy the 7.5-hour journey back to the Lake District. I love my time down there. I got on like house on fire. And sadly, it was only 3 years because Kent had a youngster coming through, Geraint Jones, finances. I was on a good contract. Financially, weren't doing great at a particular time, and I wanted to changes had to be made. And I end up the back young Geraint Jones. He was scoring double hundred in the second team, on fire, playing brilliantly. And we were working on keeping together as well. And he was in a good place, and they decided to back him. That was their choice.
He went on to do some good.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a high-class cricketer.
Fair.
Yeah, high-class cricketer.
So
good
what
man as
options
well.
did you have at the time? Obviously, then Geraint was coming through. You came back to Leicestershire. What were the thought processes behind that? And did you have more options open?
Well, in fact, the funny thing was, amazing how it happens, but my agent had spoken to a few counties. There was still umming and ahhing, a few counties at umming and ahhing. And then I think Neil Burns here, there'd been a court case here at Leicestershire. I ended up afterwards having gone into the court case. I got dragged into the court case about when Leicestershire approached me and the agent and blah, 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 what was going on. So I ended up telling my story in court and ended up, which is carnage. But
bizarre experience.
Yeah, bizarre experience. Because all you want to do is play cricket. And then it was so nice for me to have the opportunity. Leicester were mad keen, and I came back, and it was like back into the side. He would go again. And at that particular time, it was very different. A lot of different guys had come in. And we were driving it forward again, and it was a really good vibe. It was a really positive vibe again, and I loved it.
Within that second coming of Leicestershire for you, you earned an England caller in the, if I'm right in saying, 06-07 Australia tour, ODI. How did you find that so late on in your career? So you'd played 17 years of first-class cricket at this point. Yeah.
Well, just before that, in fact, at Kent, I got on the England tour to Pakistan and Sri Lanka, and I was Alex Stewart's number 2. So I'd never got a game. Stewie, I tried to break his toe in the door in the toilet, but he just kept getting his foot out of the way. Just when he was picking his cup of tea up, I just dropped my bat on him. But the gaffer was kept himself out of harm's way. But that was a nice taste, and the vibe that I got from that was, listen, we don't mind about age. If people are doing well and they're fit enough and strong enough and mentally in a good place and their game's in a good place, they've got a chance. And that really inspired me to keep going and keep driving on. And we played some great cricket, and we're winning some big games and winning finals. And I think when you do well in finals, you put your name in the hat. So
So was that 36?
36.
Do you think that your chance had gone by that point then? That you were never going to...
I was starting to believe that. I really was, even though inside you're always going to play for England because that's your dream as a young boy or a young girl these days. Playing all this wonderful cricket, it's great. So you want to do that, but you have to be realistic. But I was still, relatively fit. I always said I was going to give up cricket when somebody beat me in the fitness test. I think James Taylor beat me when I was about 36 or 37 in the running test. So we still have a laugh about that now while I was here at the club now. So yeah, I had a decent year. It was Michael Vaughan, actually. We played Yorkshire one of the last few games of the year. And Michael Vaughan said to me, Nico, just stay cricket fit. Don't go with the Leicester Tigers in the winter. Just stay cricket fit because you never know. So he was already planning a one-day series after a test match series because Australia had a good side, and he just was thinking, do we need some changes? Do we need some new energy into the one-day team after the county championship in that Ashes sort of series? So, which they did. There's a whitewash, and David Gower sent me. He called me and said, Nico, I'm pleased to say you're going to be finally England's wicketkeeper batsman. You're going to be going out there to play. Your tickets coming over in DHL the next few hours. All your England kits coming over. DHL again in the next couple of hours. Can't wait to see you in Australia.
What's that feeling like? So, and who did you share that with?
Yeah, with the family straight away. Family at home. Amazing feeling. So proud and so happy, and just to know you're going to do it. Exciting time.
Were there any nerves? Given you'd had
it's really
full first-class career up until then, or many people's full first-class career up until then, were you still nervous, or were you as confident as you were?
Yeah, but my game was still in a good place. I was in a good place then, and I knew it, and I knew my game, and I had that taste of international cricket, even though I hadn't played a game. I'd played in the games in between. I remember being in. Trying to think where we were now. Was it Rawalpindi? And Shoaib Akhtar was steaming in. With a decent crowd. It was almost like being in a test match anyway.
Yeah.
So, and Craig White and I put a few on it. I think he got 50 and I got 30 to 40. I can't remember now. And it gave me a nice taster of what it was about. And thrown to the lads every morning at test matches and being around non-stop was brilliant. And, winning in Pakistan in the dark with Graham Thorpe played brilliantly, and Nasser and Hickey played a great role. So being part of that gave you you were there. And even though you didn't play, you were still there and feeling it and playing the games in between. So I had an expectation of what it was going to be like. So I was at ease. I was ready. And I knew that I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I was an older guy at the end of my career. And you know what? Let's go and have fun and let's embrace it. And let's just be me as much as I can. Be my authentic self.
Must be a great position to be in that.
Yeah,
mentally.
When you're ready. And I think that you've got to be ready to play. International cricket, being ready and knowing your game is so crucial. It's so crucial.
You were out in Australia. Was that for the tri-series against New Zealand as well, and the World Cup on the back of that?
Yeah. So the first ever T20 was the first game, which was a very special day. And I remember Gilchrist being mic'd up, and I was standing behind him, and he's talking to the commentators going, yeah, I'm going to go cow corner now. I'm going to walk across and go cow corner. And I'm like going, Vaughan, Straussy, get somebody. And they're going, Nico, will you shut up? You're not the captain. And I'm like, yeah, but he's going to hit it there. Next ball, 6 over there. Next ball, yeah, I think I'm going to walk across and go square leg. Yeah, I'm going to flick it square leg. Go on then, Gilly, let's have a look. I can hear the commentators talking to him on his earpiece. And I'm going, get them squarer. But great day, great experience. And, Australia battered us, and I ended up getting 30 off about 20 balls, or 31, 32 off 20, 21 balls, hitting a nice 6 and thinking, I'm all right here. It's international cricket. I can cope. I've got the skill set and the mental capacity. I enjoyed it. Yes, I was a bit nervous walking out and breathing and having a few mental routines as you go out. And Paul Collingwood gave me the big high five, said, Nico, just get off the mark, mate. Tap and run, get off the mark, which you did. And then it was into it afterwards, straight to to Sydney SCG. From SCG 46,000 the SCG. I think it was 46,000 to Melbourne, and I think 80,000, 89,000.
Biggest crowd you played in by far.
Yeah, by far. Very special day, and it was. We got beat. I got a duck. And we got beat, so it wasn't a great day. I think I dropped the first ball that came through to me as a keeper as well. Wobbled around off John Lewis. But special days, great days. And I felt ready because the vibe was, it had such a bad time in the 5-day test matches. The vibe from Duncan Fletcher was, listen, come and do some fighting, get out there. We can't be any worse. Let's just go and express yourself. I need you to be a real strong character, get in the opposition's faces. We think that they'll bite back a lot. And
so do you think the team was in actually quite a similar position to you individually, where there was nothing to lose?
Yeah,
you were already. Well, the team was rock bottom, and you were late in your career, nothing to lose. So do you think you've gelled into that quite well?
Yeah.
Obviously with your prior experience with the team and knowing people, but that culture and that sort of go out and do it, we can't do any worse. How do you find that playing under that sort of, because you must still feel pressure?
Yeah, of course you do. When you walk out on the field, it becomes very real. Or you're driving to a game and there's 60,000 Aussies on the way, and as you're driving in the bus, you know, it's like a Premier League match, Man City versus Manchester United, you know. So but that's great. That's what it's about. And the challenge of you is breathing, staying calm, having good affirmations in your mind, good things that you do well, the fun in the bus and the banter and the likes of Darren Gough sitting in the back seat having fun and haven't taken the mick out of the lads and opposition. All that goes into the pot. So yeah, special days, and you know, you have to stand up and be counted. You've got to step up to the plate. That's what it's about. That's what you're there for. And you know, there's people dying in this world. There's wars. There's famines. There's, you know, I think as a farmer's son, you realise that there's animals are dying and there's things happening all around you. And actually, it's a game, and it's a game of cricket. But we do our best, and we can only do our best. We can only do our best.
And those opportunities for you at that level came off the back. Some good white ball days for you with Leicestershire, particularly the T20 wins 2004 and 2006. Such a great side, didn't you? Likes of Darren Maddy, Snape, Henderson, Broad for the latter competition there. How special were those two wins?
Yeah, magical wins. We played a great brand of cricket. We're doing a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. The guys were all getting a good place. Snapey was doing well, and the boys were in a fantastic place. Claude was just Mr. Consistent. He was amazing. You know, the song and the vibe we got. We won games early. The crowd came in as supporters. We'd never seen crowds like this at Grace Road before. We were buzzing from the crowd. You know, it was both. It was really well received both ways. We were playing good cricket and they loved it, and we were on fire. And we just had a belief that somebody would step up to the game. And Darren Maddy was phenomenal. I can't tell you how good Darren was. I think he was the first to 1,000 runs in T20 cricket. He got us off to some amazing starts. Brad Hodge was on fire as an overseas pro. Mark Clary before him Mark Clary came from Australia, who was a magnificent opening bowler and death bowler. He'd been really consistent with the death bowling. He was better than everybody else at the death. His slow balls, nobody could get near his slow balls. A bit like Naveen now, actually, for us. His slow balls were amazing. So he was a guy that really handled the pressure for us and showed us the level to be at in that situation. So, we had an amazing belief that Claude wasn't going to go for like 25. Yeah. Mark Clary was going to go at 6.5, 7 and over at worst. Middle order Snapey would be smart at the right times. And everybody played their parts, and we all knew our roles. We feared no one. That
was obviously early days, wasn't it, in T20? We've seen now with 100 being created a lot of tension around that, a divide. How did you feel at the time when T20 came out as a concept, as a player?
Well, we'd played it in the leagues as boys and young men. We'd played I think we played 17 overs a side in the evening. I think it was 8 ball overs, and we all loved it. And it was accessible because people are working and people did it. And we were really lucky because we had that week, we had a week off before it. So we came out here, the grounds was fantastic, and let us be out in the middle the week beforehand. And we just played game after game after game, tried everything from measured balls, each ball, having a plan for each ball. First ball, a slow ball. Second ball, the fastest ball you could bowl, top of the stumps. Third ball, slow ball. Fourth ball, bouncer. Fifth ball, wide Yorker. Sixth ball into middle leg. We tried everything. We tried being really loud and vocal. We tried being quiet. We tried everything. And spin up front, spin in the middle, spin at the death. And actually, we found some nice little philosophies that worked, and some systems that worked. And we then had some great chats. Obviously, Jeremy Snape was doing his sports psychology at the time. And Ted Garrett, our sports psychologist, had been helping him as well. So we had some great conversations, team conversations about maximising some real honest conversation about maximising each other's strengths and where each other should bat and who should bowl where. And we had that spare week that gave us so much clarity in what we're going to do.
Talking about preparation, I think I'd like to move on to your recent trip to Pakistan, which looked amazing. Firstly, how was that? But also, what difference is there in culture of cricket in terms of preparation and the culture of playing the game, the way people play the game and how people think? What difference is there between what we know now and what they're playing like over there?
Yeah, it was I was really fortunate and blessed to have that experience because they were looking for some overseas coaches to come over, and I was really fortunate that an agent came to me and said, "Would you be keen to do it?" Pakistan Cricket Board are keen to get some overseas coaches involved, and if you could bring a team of people with you as well, a strength and conditioning coach, and also someone who could do a bit of fielding work as well and help the batters. So I got Ian Fisher, ex-Yorkshire, who played as well, so that helped. He was a player and a strength and conditioning coach, and also Neil Johnson, who obviously was an overseas pro here. He was at Oakham School at the time and just finishing his school career, so as a head of cricket in his private school. So two great lads who I knew, and to go out there to be thrown into a head coach of a new culture, a new organisation, was very special. And cricket, passionate cricket of 200 plus million people, like India, cricket, crazy.
Ask about that. On the streets, how many people do you see playing cricket everywhere you go?
Everywhere you go. Every street you turn down, somebody's playing cricket. Kids.
Wherever they can, whenever they can.
Yeah, boys, girls, you name it, they're all playing cricket. And it's lovely. And it's a bit like probably like the West Indies 35, 40 years ago, before the basketballs kicked off and the other sports. But amazing people, passionate about the game. I think we're so lucky here with our facilities. The facilities aren't quite as good over there because they're getting more use. So many people want to play cricket. So I feel for the groundsman. And part of that remit was to write a report for PCB to give our best opportunity of how they get better. So in every area, from grounds to food to training facilities to umpiring to whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that was really nice that you were being really valued. It mattered what you said, and building up the culture was very different because obviously the guys pray a lot out there. So everything we do before we do anything, we pray, and it's a very much of a hierarchy as far as the senior players would run a team. The youngsters don't say much. They just have full respect for the seniors, and which is lovely. But obviously in a team, you want your youngsters to chat and to say what they're thinking. They might have some great ideas, but it's not assured. They can't get it out. So we got the guys talking for the first time, which they didn't really ever do before, as far as doing debriefs after games. Preparation before games, there's a lot more structure. It was, we've been lucky to have a lot of good coaches around for many years. And, guys have done the level 3s, the level 4s, and been the amount of experienced cricketers we've got, I was so lucky to have, I probably played more games than all of our team put together. So it's we're blessed that way. But there's some amazing talent, some guys that, Pakistan cricket over the years has been a little bit highs and lows, and it's been a bit up and down, and that's where a little bit of insecurity with selections have been over the past few years, and guys are a little bit insecure about that. So we tried to make some security happen for them and say, listen, you're going to be in the team for the next 5 or 6 games. Don't go and enjoy yourself. Go and play. Go and be yourself. Don't worry about how many you get. It doesn't matter. You're going to be in the side. And back people. They just needed backing. And once they were backed, they were so successful and did so well. So we all loved it, and we almost feel like it's unfinished business because we've tried it, we've loved it. The guys have enjoyed it and embraced it. You almost want to go and help out again, because I was in a director of cricket meeting and head coaches meeting a couple of weeks ago at St George's Park, the football headquarters, and Kingy from Sky was basically saying, from Sky Sports, saying, English cricket and Sky and English cricket and the broadcasters, we need a strong India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, West Indies, because, you know, Test match cricket, the way England are playing Test match cricket now, is so watchable and so liked and so admired around the world. And even the Pakistan guys were admiring how well I want to play like England are playing. So it was nice that some of the things that we were talking about, England came and did it, you know, on fire, which was lovely as well.
Changing the game in front of us.
Changing the game.
How refreshing is that brand of cricket to watch? Wish you played in that team?
Amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Love to have played in that. Wow. And that's how, you know, that's how Brendan McCullum played his cricket when he first came over as an overseas pro. I remember him here. I think he was Glamorgan he was playing for. I think it was Glamorgan many years ago. I think his second ball of the day, he ran up the wicket and hit somebody straight over the head for 4. And he's like, whoa. You don't do that over here, young man. Hey, you can whip it from New Zealand. You don't do that. And he was just chewing gum, bring it on, mate. And I just love that attitude. And Rob Keane and Stokes here, they've done such a great job. And they've been very honest and very vulnerable and been brave in how they're going about it. But it is good to watch. And I think T20 cricket and the progression of T20 cricket and 50 over cricket and white ball cricket alongside academies, kids are knowing the game earlier now because they're having strength and conditioning at 12, 13 years old, doing the right things, the nutrition chats from nutritionists, the psychology, great coaching standards have got higher and higher. So people are being ready earlier and quicker in their careers.
Well, you see young lads at 22 years of age now signing white ball contracts, which even me, I've never really sort of seen, you know, like I've never experienced someone of that age going, all right, well, I'm just going to go down the white ball route now. Usually it's somebody who's later on in their career who's got more experience in the white ball sides and they go, okay, but when my body's not quite ready for a 4-day season, so I'm going to sign a white ball contract. But it's amazing how the world's moving forward. And you're right when you say people are getting exposed to it earlier now, which means they're more experienced and they're ready to take on just the white ball side of life from earlier.
Yeah, and I think it's going to change even more so. I see so many more cricketing nations really take over and plough a lot of money in, like America. They're talking about Saudi Arabia building loads of stadiums at the moment. So, you know, we're starting to see a little bit of it, but I think the likes of the Mumbai Indians and the big franchises around the world, they're going to now start to have the player for their career, the player's career. They're going to be with that you know, that franchise. So the cricketing landscape, we have to be so flexible and go with it, and, you know, yes, challenge at the right times, but it's going to be an exciting journey. It's going to move forward again. The norm's going to change again.
I think we're running out a little bit of time, but if we just go back to the final question, back to your career, on the proudest moment, there's a photo of you there on the Kent quarter-final, a great side in 2011 that won, you know, the sort of swan song of your career. How proud was that day and the finals day as well after it?
Yeah, because I knew it was my last T20 tournament. I knew I was retiring. To play against Kent, the team, you know, Leicester and Kent are the two clubs I've been at.
It was the fairy tale, wasn't it?
It was the fairy tale. And yeah, we worked hard for it. And Abdul Razak helped me the week before. We had a week. I didn't play. I was gutted not to play in the 4-day games. Matthew Hoggard said, no, I don't think it's right, Nico. Play in the T20. I want you to look after your body for that. I'm like, no, I want to play. I'm desperate to play. He goes, no, you're going to play there. So we had a week preparation, the two of us. And he said, Razak said, how are you going to play Wahab Riaz? Because he's swinging it in quick, you know, 90 miles an hour. How are you going to play him? And I said, well, I'm a leg side player, a bit more. I think I should walk across and look to go leg side. No, you don't. He said, you'll get LBW. You'll get a Yorker right. Give yourself room and look through the offside. And you know what? We practiced for a week. He went round the wicket and swung it back into me, like a reverse swing as a left-hander, bowling obviously right-handed. And we practiced it and worked on it. And we came to the day, and it worked. You know, I got a quick fire, 30 odd off about 19 balls, 20 balls or something. And it worked. Had a little bit of luck at an inside edge, a couple of inside edges for 4. But yeah, all the planning and preparation went in well. And to do that at home in front of a full house, to go through the finals day, was a magical time. And yeah, it was. It couldn't. Fairy tale finish was lovely. I've been blessed.
I feel like there's still so much more we could cover on your career, but I think we have run out of time. So thank you, Nico, Thank you for having me as well.
Thank you very much.
A brilliant chat. Thanks for watching Caught in Conversation, episode 1.